Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Exo Economy Town Hall number 7 out of 8. We've got only 2 weeks left, but we've got a very special guest today, so I want to jump right in. So let me introduce you to our host, Kent Langley. He's the COO and Chief Science Officer of OpenExo Inc., and he's also the mastermind behind the whole Exo economy, the Exos tokens, and the blockchain. So take it away, Kent.
Hi, Nikki. It's good to see you again. We're back.
What
number was this? 7?
7.
7.
Yes.
It felt like so long. It felt like it would be so long when we started this particular series. So hi, everybody out there. It's wonderful to be back again. Today will be a little bit shorter format than what we've had, and I do believe my co-founder Salim will be joining us in a moment. But what we're going to talk about first is 2 things. Number one, we have, there he is. Look at that. Hey, Salim. How's Miami?
Miami is,
Miami madness.
Miami is a little bit surreal. All things Florida, so anything goes.
So we're just kicking off. I was going to say we've got Anu Bhardwaj joining us in just a couple of minutes to talk about some of the incredible things she's doing. I hope all of you got to see the pre-roll video that we released yesterday from an interview with Anu and I. It's incredible what she's up to, and I can't wait for all of you to hear a little bit of her story. In the meantime, Salim, what we need to do for the next approximately 7 minutes is talk a little bit about how we got here. Why are we here? What is the town hall for? And what does the community need to know, Salim, about the EXO economy? Why don't you kick us off?
I think the big ones are, I think there's 3 things. I think 1, it's for updates. Number 2, it's for questions and specific queries that the community has. And the 3rd is to have an open discussion as to what's happening in the space overall in the broader architecture where this fits in, not just for the OpenExo community, but in the world at large. I've had a huge number of really fascinating conversations about how do you classify this as a transformation token, right? And we have this framing that we have Filecoin for storage, we have BAT for attention, Foam for geolocation, and we're essentially trying to tokenize the work of transformation. And one of the key vectors is when you create a token structure, you increase liquidity and you reduce transactional friction. And if we can do that around the very difficult work of transforming individuals or people or companies or institutions or geographies, then that becomes hugely powerful. It's pretty clear that the world is going through a massive transformation, and we need a token structure for that. So that's what we're here for.
Well, you know, we've talked about this community has grown since the time that we created the token itself, the genesis moment back in April of 2018, when the community was something like 260 people. There are almost 8,000 people in our community now. And I no longer know every one of them, although I do get the opportunity to meet a lot of them on Zoom calls all over the world. We're speaking over 40 languages. We're in over 130 countries. And in a world of COVID, Salim, where people kind of, in a lot of situations, need to stay where they are unless there's an exceptional reason to go somewhere. That hasn't really bothered us that much. We can keep right on transforming. And I think that's been interesting.
I think that, and importantly, we've spent probably almost 3 full years learning how to run our sprints and our tool sets in the ecosystem so that it scales, right? And now we can leverage that ecosystem in a really powerful way. I'm having like ridiculous conversations with companies. I was on a webinar this morning with one of the biggest energy companies in the world, and just amazing to see their need for the tools around transformation. Because if you're a massive oil and gas giant, you've got a pretty bleak future ahead as the comet of renewables comes hitting down on you, and you're the dinosaur.
So we've got a community of 8,000. We're tokenizing transformation. What we mean is the work of those community members. Where do they get the work? You know, is an interesting thing. So there's this peer-to-peer action that happens, but there's also a company, OpenExo Inc., that has a solutions division that's going out. And so if you're in a chat with an energy company, Salim, that can lead to what?
Well, I think we have kind of very bluntly, we have 2 futures in front of us, right? We have a Mad Max future or we have a Star Trek future. And where if you look at the politicians or what's happening in the Republican Party in the US or in the Middle East right now, or in protests around the world, or some of the authoritarian regimes, we're heading straight down a Mad Max path, right? The January 6th riots in the US were full on down that path. And we need to tilt that future. And with technology delivering abundance, and one of the key points that people need to understand is technology delivers abundance. We had a scarcity of information, and the internet has delivered an abundance of information. We had a scarcity of energy, and solar energy is delivering now an abundance. Or even fracking has delivered us an abundance of natural gas over the last 20, 30 years. And so technology takes something that's scarce and makes it abundant. And as we move to that economy and that new world, the business models change fundamentally. Right? Think of the idea that pretty much every business for 10,000 years is based on scarcity. If you didn't have scarcity, you pretty much didn't have a business. And we're starting to see the emergence of what we call exponential organizations, and many of them are creating business models around abundance. Airbnb has an abundance business model around the fact that cars sit empty 94% of the time. And they can tap into that latent abundance and create a business model around that. Same with Uber. The music industry is a great example. We used to sell scarcity, right? You had eight big music studios selling DVDs, cassettes, whatever. And now that we've digitized music, gone through the information paradigm, and now you have two platforms, iTunes and Spotify, delivering abundance on a subscription model. All you can eat, 50 million songs, etc. And so that pattern is something we expect to see in cars and transportation and energy and education and healthcare and legal systems. Pretty much industry after industry is going through that pattern and turning into exponential organizations. That is a massive transformation. And so in order to navigate that transformation, to navigate the advisory, the massive paradigm shift around that, I was on the phone call today on a webinar with BOMA and some of the 30 or 40 top CEOs in the country, and literally they're looking at every one of their companies having to do a 180-degree pivot from where they've been to where they need to go. And that's a massive amount of cultural effort, tool sets, transformation at the edge, radical changes, etc. And we need to have tool sets to navigate that and ease that friction. We've seen in the past, and this is one of the things, hopefully, if you've heard us speak, you've heard me say this before, is that every civilization in our history has become very sophisticated. The Romans, the Mayans, the Incas, the Egyptians, and they get to some boundary condition and then they suddenly collapsed, every single one of them. And if you talk to the Niall Fergusons and Yuval Hararis of the world, where many of those conditions exist today, so we have to figure out a way of transforming through this next phase without blowing ourselves up and wiping ourselves out. And we have the tool sets to do that. And for the first time in human history, we have a pretty thorough set of tools to transform companies, organizations, institutions, and geographies. And so it's going to be an interesting decade or two. The biggest demand in the history of business, in a sense, is making through that.
Well, we've even got our own economy and token serving our ecosystem. I like to tell people that we're kind of we're not a company. We are an ecosystem. We're not even just an ecosystem. We're actually a global emerging economy. I really think of OpenEXO that way. And we're super lucky to have standing backstage right now, Anu Bhardwaj, and she is going to come on stage and she's going to talk a little bit about some incredible work that she's been doing with her daughter and with an organization called SHEQONOMY. She's also the founder of Women Investing in Women Digital. She's going to tell us all about it. So why don't we go ahead and get Anu out here. Salim, you can say hi, and then we'll give her the stage for a few minutes.
Assalamu alaikum, Salim. I've been waiting to meet you. It's 11:11. Make a wish.
I understand you guys are from this similar geography. Is that correct?
I heard you were from Hyderabad. Are you from Hyderabad, or did I get that wrong?
No, I'm born there. There are two very old families in Hyderabad that come from one of them. We populated the whole Banjara Hills area 100, 200 years ago. Are you from there?
I'm from Purana Shehar, the old city.
Oh, so sure. Amazing.
Deep south, yeah.
So we know our biryani.
It's a small world. I got an opportunity yesterday to talk to you. It was a lovely chat, and we got that thing published and pushed, and we've been getting such wonderful feedback about your story. So I know you'll have to repeat a little bit, but we have a live audience today, and they can't wait to hear from you. So as we send Salim off into the oblivion of the internets and probably 68 more phone calls in the next 10 minutes, Salim, thank you so much for being here to help us kick off the show today.
No, can't wait to hear more. And Anu, we'll chat separately sometime. Look forward to chatting.
Wonderful. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So Anu, I said to everyone that you are the founder of Women Investing in Women Digital. You've talked to me about your work with SHEQONOMY and the work that you've done with your daughter. I know that this audience would love to hear a little bit about that. If you'd like to take the next 7 or 8 minutes and share a little bit about the work that you've been doing and any insights that you think would help people out there that are struggling with crypto. They're trying to learn this. They know it's important. They don't necessarily know how to get from point A to B. We try to be a good on-ramp here at OpenEXO and the Exo economy, but it is challenging for people. But you've done some novel work, and I can't wait for people to hear that about you. Is that okay?
Thank you so much, Kit, for your support, your warmth,
sure.
and your just generosity of bringing me out here today. So I love your team. Jackie Hart, thank you for setting this up, and Nikki for following through, making this happen, everyone for accommodating. We are in the middle of our own summit right now, Amplifying Her Voice, which is in honor of Mother's Day and mothers all over the world, which ties in beautifully to today's town hall, because what I'm going to talk to you about is the bottom billion and how women and girls are the ones that are in need of the most support and help, especially during the pandemic. So it's so great to be with all of you talking about why we need this technology to really advance not just women and girls, but also all of humanity. And we do that with the support of men like Kent, who just set this panel up so beautifully, and Salim, who's working on his own technology and mobilizing the global community. So I thank all of the men out there who have made it a priority to bring women to the forefront. And I am very good friends with Jackie, who's one of his senior members of his team, and know her values and ethics and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of women in the space that are working together, coming together, who believe that true transformation, economic empowerment of our planet is going to happen once we empower women and girls. And so that's the crux, the heart and soul of what SHEQONOMY stands for. And I did not create this alone by any means. I had many men helping us with our tech, and they still are. They're tech Ronins. That's what they are, and just brilliant human beings. But more importantly, we were inspired by children. I've been inspired by my own daughter, as I presented earlier yesterday in the trailer video. Aria has really been working closely with what I've been developing, and why, because ultimately it's the future generations, the digital natives, that are going to take what we're doing and really transform our planet to be more equal, be more fair, and most importantly, to help those that need it the most. And so what I spoke about yesterday is that we have been working on tech, not designed for me and you, but designed for those people that probably would not have come into the picture unless huge sums of money were mobilized from the beginning. So we're developing tech for the bottom billion, and much of it's involving crypto. We've got our own apps now on Android, iOS, and KaiOS. If you look in the app stores, it's under SHEQONOMY. For those of you, I'm going to type it in the thread, who are with us. It's SHEQONOMI. And there's technology enhancements and developments that are going on a regular basis, but the nuts and bolts are there. We just won a grant, a $150,000 grant from the Islamic Development Bank, the largest award from their COVID Solutions Innovation Global Transform Fund. That was the 2020 winner. Out of 5,000 applicants, there were 30 winners. 7 women-led teams. I happen to be the only Hindu that won the award. And it's such an honor because it was merit-based, it was global, and they truly felt that this is a solution that's scalable across all of their member countries, which starts from Morocco and goes all the way to Indonesia. There are about 56 Islamic states. So ultimately, what we're working on now is a technology where you can amplify women's voices. We have 300 podcasts already uploaded, English, Spanish, and Chinese, and we're adding more languages. We make original podcasts, and we have producers who are women and editors and so on and so forth. Our whole production team happens to be women at the moment. And of course, we're getting languages that are Indian and Bengali, and we're getting Spanish, Portuguese production, and Swedish, Norwegian. So Arabic, anything that you feel that there's messages that need to be relayed to the bottom billion. Ultimately, we've got this platform not only for production but also distribution, and that's what's going to really make us game changing, because we're working with original phone companies as well, and working on the tech integration from that standpoint. So really, this is women-led, women-driven, women-focused, and we look forward to partnering with all organizations who share a common mission, values, and mandate. So that's a little bit about SHEQONOMY, and Krypto4Kids is an initiative that I started with my daughter before the pandemic. It got crazy during homeschooling and whatnot, but we ended up taking this initiative all the way up to the United Nations, presenting to probably 500 top leaders in the blockchain for impact space. And my daughter was 7 when she presented. And, at this moment in time, it's about how do we teach our kids not just the value of money, but the different ways that we can use money, both in physical form and in digital form. So I think there's a lot we can do as parents to educate. And I'm really looking forward to the next few years on what we develop with this app. Not just in the developed world, but what's going to come out of the refugee camps where we're taking it, and other underserved areas. Thank you.
That's amazing. So let me make sure I'm not mute. Okay, that's amazing. And you, look, I appreciate what you said there, and I know that, for example, I'd pretty much be a hot mess if it wasn't for my partner in life, my wife, and I most definitely did not bring those 3 young boys into the world all by myself. And, it's given me so much. And then, of course, I've got a mom, just like everybody. So thanks, Mom, out there, if you get to see this. But, we're with you. And there are so many people in the OpenEXO community that I know resonate with this message. So we're going to work hard to make sure they see this and they see the interview from yesterday.
Thank you.
If there was one thing that people could do next to get started to help make this difference that you're pursuing for women in the world, what should they do right now? Next click.
I would like you to go to thestateofwomen.org and sign up for our newsletter so you guys can stay connected with us. Thestateofwomen.org. I'm going to type it in the chat thread. This way you'll hear about our upcoming summits. You'll hear about the apps, any developments. It's all coming from thestateofwomen.org. And of course, download our apps at SHEQONOMY, any platform, and you can find us and communicate with us. So thank you.
That is awesome. So look, I know that you're actually running your entire own summit right now, and you've really got to go. So thank you for somehow making time to fit us in this morning, for being here to share with our community.
Amazing.
Really grateful for that.
Honored.
Anu,
Thank you so
have
much.
an amazing rest of your day.
You too, love. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. All right. So how about that, everybody? Empty chair with Salim. We are back here. That was Anu Bhardwaj. You heard what she said. Go check out thestateofwomen.org. I'm just blown away by what she's done, especially what she did with her children. Her child speaking in front of the UN General Assembly at the age of 7. We really don't give our kids enough credit of what they're capable of. So let's pay attention to that. I know I certainly have some more work to do with my kids. So our next guest is going to be Toby Lewis. So Toby Lewis he's the CEO and founder of an organization called Novum, and they're based out of the United Kingdom. Toby and his team have been supporting us in the addition, as you heard Salim saying earlier. Toby and team have been supporting us in the addition of liquidity to the EXO economy's native digital asset, Exos. Our token, Exos, capital EXOS, it operates on its own blockchain, the Exos blockchain. And this forms the basis for the transactional capability, for the unit of count, exchange of value, store of value over time of the Exos token. And I like to believe the OpenEXO community itself building that economy up. And we've been building that from the start. Funny thing about building an economy, I've this hypothesis, I think it's going to take decades to prove it, but I don't think you build an economy from scratch. If you're going to tokenize something, you tokenize an economy that already exists. So what we're tokenizing is the capabilities of the members of the OpenEXO community to do the transformation that we speak of when we talk about transforming the world for a better future. Now, I'm going to bring Toby on stage. We're going to talk a little bit about decentralized finance, and I'm going to give Toby the floor for about 5 minutes, and he's going to tell you what we're seeing in the world. I mean, DeFi is hot. Toby, you're extremely well positioned with your work at Novum. So Novum, welcome to the show again. I think we've done this a few times now. It's great to see you again, Toby. How are you today?
And I like to hope we'll get better and better at it, Ken. I do always enjoy being on. Sorry.
I think we're doing okay, but we mess something up every time and have to own that and just keep rolling.
I think public speaking is always one of those games. But as I said to Kent the other day, and I think this is something I feel really, really passionately, and I think Exos is one of the best positioned organizations in the world to transform this, is at the moment, it can sometimes feel, if you're a practitioner in DeFi, which I would still say is one of the most exciting areas of technology in the world right now, is that effectively this needs to be about more than just building a better bank, right? Like it needs to be about something different. And I think what Kent and Salim and the close to 8,000 people that you've gathered around you, which is a true movement, right? This is, you've created one of the first real DAOs, and with a decentralized autonomous organization. And I think done it in a way that is incredible, because you're dealing with issues like some of the issues that Anu's looking to deal with, and the role of women and emerging markets, and just the sheer complexity and sort of I guess enthusiasm of every single one of your members, right? I think you've created a tribe, and I think what is great, and I feel honored to be someone who's been advising you on this, is that DeFi provides a peer-to-peer mechanism that is just leverages some of the best-in-class computer programming that there is to allow people to compound their money, to create new things. If you spend a lot of time in the DeFi space, a lot of it can feel like financial gaming, right? It's sort of, there's a lot of math, there's a lot of looking for higher yields, there's a lot of creativity. And I think Exos is going to be a project, and I think Lawrence Bloom kicked off this thought leadership series with some really profound thoughts on that we were actually kicking off a moment of history, and as a practitioner down in the weeds dealing with the technical detail, I think it behooves us to stand back and admire what we're about to do, because I think it is a real-time experiment. It may not be perfect, and there will definitely be issues. I know Kent and I largely spend our time fighting fires and making sure that problems don't happen. But I think, Kent, from my point of view, actually, I think when this goes onto Ethereum mainnet and the different protocols that have been invented, I think it's going to be day one of your 8,000 people touching the rest of the wider crypto world beyond your kind of, what I see as your blockchain that you've developed is kind of like a petri dish, right? It's allowed you to grow up as a community, and it's now 3 years old. And I really think we're just getting started. So, Ken, a testament to you, really.
Well, a testament to all of the people who have their hands in this, their work in this, their blood, sweat, tears. There are dozens of them, right? I mean, it's not. It takes a village. It's a community, and we're building something I think that's really unique. And you pointed out something I think that's truly exciting about this. The EXO model has 10 attributes and an MTP. So we've got an MTP. We're transforming the world for a better future. Or I've been saying lately, just to poke at people, transforming the future for a better world, because I'd like it to be deliberate, right? The world that we're transforming into. But it is an interface, right? One of those attributes is interfaces. The EXO economy is an interface, as you pointed out, to what you'd call the broader crypto community. And that's a two-way interface. But it's also an interface to the world at large, especially if you start to think about DeFi, just the word DeFi, decentralized finance, the phrase. Well, let's take the finance out and let's replace it with something. What? Transformation. Decentralized transformation. That's what we're on about here. So by taking our token, wrapping it, I don't want to get into all the technical terms about that today. I did that in the last one. I'll probably have to do it again later. But we wrap that token to have a version of Exos running on the Ethereum blockchain. Toby, you were one of the ones that elaborated this pretty eloquently. This allows us to do something really interesting. It allows us to tap in to the features of that world, right? That is liquidity. There's a lot of liquidity in that space. But everything, I mean, the token that we create to run on Ethereum that is pegged to Exos is a native ERC20 token. Sorry for the technical term, but that means it can do anything that any ERC20 token can do. Think about that. Want NFTs? It's possible. Want to trade on Uniswap? We could do that. Want to trade on Pancake? We could do that too. What else?
Yeah, and to be honest, Ken, I'm getting to the point now where I actually met a fellow sort of entrepreneur today, and this guy actually he was one of the best known sort of Ruby and Rails programmers in the world before he entered the crypto space, and is now doing an NFT project. And this guy, incredible, and he's gone, my head is just exploding. Can you just slow down? I'm just not. I think Ted empathizes, like
yeah.
But it is, the pace of change is so great. I actually saw just before I came on today that Elon Musk, God bless him, asked Twitter, should Tesla be accepting Dogecoin? And 85% of Twitter said yes. So we are living at extraordinary times.
So I got to tap in on this one. I've been watching this whole thing with Musk and Doge and Saturday Night Live, and it's all very exciting, right? At the same time, rockets are blasting off into space like mad. I mean, how many things have they done this month? Like, it's insane, the pace of launches and tests, and Starship coming up. And however, when I look through all of the rhetoric, the online stuff, should we accept Dogecoin? Sure, whatever, do that. But that's not the revolutionary thing. Start paying your employees in Bitcoin. Take your executive salary in Bitcoin or Dogecoin. That is quite a message to send. So, Mr. Musk, if you're out there and somehow you ever heard this, I say pay your people in crypto, because that changes everything. Now you're not just taking it into HODL, you're actually giving it back out into the world as an alternate means of exchange of value. And that That'd be a big deal coming from such a big stage.
And I'm almost certain that Musk and Saylor and some of these larger than life characters, and many of them I think are the Exos community. What I love about you is you're very humble, but you also sort of through Kent and Salim, your networks, you are dealing with figures of this stature, and they are. I think a lot of these people are really thinking very, very hard about how we build a better world, right? Like your tagline is wonderful. I love the intentionality of it, to transform the future, right? That is, it just feels that is what I want to be doing as well. And I think like I like to think my butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil moment maybe helping you guys bring and girls bring DeFi to this wonderful organization that is Exos. And I think we're really at the start, and it's definitely I feel great about where DeFi is heading. I think there's obviously, like any financial market, and it is partly crypto, is partly a financial market. Really, it does get overheated. I think, and arguably we're in silly season. If people don't know what Doge is, it is named after a Shiba Inu dog, and it's now I think the third largest cryptocurrency at $70 billion market cap. So I mean, and what I would love to see is Exos making that level of impact, and really sort of transforming world economies. And I know, Ken, I mean, you're all very humble, but you meet with heads of state, you meet with heads of industry, and I think what we're doing here will tap the crowd to some of the most innovative and forward-thinking people in the world.
Well, you know, we've been very fortunate to be able to have access to over 30 heads of state, and we've been fortunate to have a number of people joining our own community who are quite recognizable names. But the reason we do that is to connect them with a community of 8,000 people who over almost 600 of them have certified in the deployment model that can be deployed, as you even heard Salim say this earlier. It can be a sprint. It can be a sprint for a company. It can be a fast track for a city. This summer, we're piloting something called a quest for the first time ever that sets out to do what sprints and fast tracks do for organizations and cities, but for institutions. So taking on something like the institution of education, well, guess what? We're going to try that this summer. It's an experiment, though. And that's the dog food you've really got to be ready to eat, because no, none of it's perfect. This economy project's not perfect by far, you know, but we certainly try to do our best here to connect all the dots and get the right people in the right place at the right time to make meaningful impact. Because that's what matters. I mean, you can talk all day long, you can name drop all day long, but if you don't actually do something and make the actual change, I mean, what did you really do? You know.
And 100%. And I think that is, I mean, it's great that Salim's soon releasing like his new book, right?
Oh yeah, the book.
Because I think. Like what's great about this like I think you've given one of the better articulations of the Silicon Valley playbook, right? And the international disruptive playbook. And I think what's great is now I would argue that the crypto space is now disrupting Google, it's disrupting Amazon, it's disrupting Microsoft, and I guess what I like about the exponential organization thinking is actually you're encouraging all of these organizations to begin going, how can you sort of build something truly exponential? And I think you've been one of the braver kind of companies sitting at the heart of Silicon Valley to build a DAO instead of your sort of, like, you do obviously operate with the traditional company framework, but this sort of wider community-owned token is it's truly the frontier.
Yeah, I don't, we haven't seen anything else quite like it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but we haven't yet. The DAO piece, and I appreciate you bringing that in. The DAO piece is actually really hard. And actually, when people look at a DAO when it's young, they're super disappointed. They look at it and they're like, that's nothing. And I'm like, well, no, that's everything. It's a seed, and it's very difficult to get this across that at least, and again, I'm entitled to my opinions and I get to sit here and share them and debate them. But the fact is, I don't think you create a powerful, emergent, long-term, resilient DAO unless you grow it from a tiny, tiny little seed and you let it develop its own emergent properties over time. And that comes from really basic fundamentals. Like, how do you make a decision? How do you communicate with one another? How often do you do that? What do you do when there's a problem? How do you adjudicate, right? There's an issue. And then how do you get that to be supporting the whole community, but not necessarily driving only for consensus, because consensus is slow and tedious and it doesn't necessarily get things done. So, we've drawn a lot of inspiration for our DAO, Toby, from frameworks like holacracy, frameworks like sociocracy. And then, at least I think, DAOs are an evolution. Okay, nothing's black and white, okay? So I'll say this, but DAOs are an evolution of cooperatives, and digitized cooperatives are sometimes called platform cooperatives. I think the more powerful DAOs are going to be effectively digital cooperatives that have taken the time to grow up from a little baby to an adult and can take on the world, right? Because when you leave the home and then you're out of the house and mom and dad aren't telling you what to do anymore, well, that's when we really see what we made, isn't it? So we're still in that phase. We're sort of I'm going to go ahead and say we're in late adolescence, but with a long way to go.
Yeah, no, and a testament. And I love this community in late adolescence, and we're like, I think in bringing it, like we're seeing, I think, because Ken, you're a great operations guy, and you've got many great technical operators around you. And it's quite interesting because, like, it's kind of because you have a DAO and the sort of tech nature of it, it's going to be really interesting how we all transition to how do we make decisions, and the crowd saying you should do one thing, and then how do you implement it? And the mind, like, and I loved when I met you as like you've ensured that the community will be, the moment this thing goes live in Uniswap, I've heard you say it many, many times, there will be, like, the crowd will be controlling what happens. And it's going to be a pretty amazing day when like we're a month and a half away from that.
Yeah.
And I'd be intrigued, actually, Ken, just to ask you a question, like what do you think is going to happen when that sort of, when the governance is decentralized in such a way, right? As an early leader trying to sort of take people along that path.
I think it's going to be so at OpenXO, we created a product called the Exo Sprint. In the sprint, the very first thing you do is something called the Awake session. And the Awake session is when you do this bit of shock and awe, and you show the people that you're trying to help get into a mode where they can transform. They're not ready yet, right? They're kind of in that, like, who's this crazy guy up on the stage talking about all this crazy stuff, right? We get that at the beginning. And I think that's where we've been. I think we've been in an Awake session for years, right? For several years now, we've been in an Awake session. And the first public awareness of that economy existing, the token existing, is the culmination of that Awake session, where everybody's going to go, holy. Now, I mean, they're going to go, what is this? There's how many people? It's and whatever it's worth, right? It's going to be worth something, not nothing. And right now, there's this perception that crypto is not worth anything because what's it backed by? And I just shake my head at this, and I was like, and then I get into the discussions about money. Well, what is money? Why do you think money's valuable? And well, okay, that kind of comes down to trust, doesn't it? And I've even had conversations with people who are experts in trust who don't think crypto's worth anything. And I'm like, I just can't even, right? But so the thing is, what I think is going to happen, Toby, when we got those public interfaces to what's been happening here for years, it's not new. It's not like we made it yesterday, is that we're ready. And I think our own community, as well as the outside world, is going to see that for the first time. Right, we've got a new PR team coming online who I'm extremely excited about. There'll be some announcements coming out about that shortly. The tokens are in the right hands. So as people learn how to operate with this wrapped version of the token on Ethereum, with the native token Exos on its native blockchain, and who knows, we might end up wrapping it and putting it on other chains as well. These are all bridges to the world. So I think there's going to be a big culmination of that awakening about the power that's been created and put directly into the hands of the community itself.
Yeah. And it's and I think it's a wonderful, I think it's one of the safest spaces I've been in, and I have to think actually, I think some of the biggest Zoom meetings I've ever been into, the depth of your economy is incredible, because you suddenly run into another hugely impressive person who's done all these
every day. Every day I meet somebody like that. Well, Toby, let's shift gears a little bit. Looking at the clock, I always get a lot of questions in between these events. Today, our panel is basically going to be us, because Anu unfortunately had to go because she's running her own event right now. And Salim is speaking to some folks who we really want Salim to speak to right now. So let's let him do that. But Toby, I have 23 questions that have just come in, and there you look at that. It's Q&A time. So if you're willing to hang out with me, that way they don't have to just listen to me drone on. You could help me answer some of these, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, all right, let's do it. So I love this first one. Why not just start big? So EXO economy, I'm just going to assume all of these questions are in the context of the EXO economy, okay, for a focal point, because they could be applied in different ways. For the EXO economy, what are the possible problems it could solve for the world?
Well,
Can we take turns?
I think no. And well, I'd like to have my stab at it.
Go for it.
You're obviously the best placed person to answer that. But I guess I've been sort of, I think what I see the Exo economy as is a fuel of this wonderful organization that you built very intentionally to transform the future for a better world, right? And that is and to your earlier point of people not seeing the value in crypto, well, at the end of the day, I just almost find that hard to understand, right? Because like if I can see when the Exo is on its own chain and it's just being transacted among yourselves, there could be a degree of questioning. Like there's 7,500, 8,000 people who are choosing to believe this thing has value, but at the end of the day, it's not that easy to transform it into dollars and pounds. I mean, I think we're showing that can be done, and I think it will be done at scale. But the many cryptocurrencies, you can literally transfer one for one to the US dollar or to the pound or to the euro or gold or whatever you want to do with it. And you can do that almost instantly, right? So there's this fungible nature of it, right? So now we put these tokens into the hands of all your community, and your community is working on the AIDS pandemic in sub-Saharan Africa. It's working on the oceans. It's working on like Kent. You can provide the list of
it's along the Amazon rainforest, women for impact. There's, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's gotten beyond my ability to remember. One of our community members even made a map of all the different things that are going on around the world that are touching the token alone. None, and that's only a subset of what the community's touching. The community's touching much even more. So yeah, so then the question is, right, what problems could it solve for the world? Well, what problems? It's easier to answer what it couldn't solve, right? Because not much. I mean, it can solve anything. But the problem that I wanted to solve, and Salim and I, you'll hear us talk about this a lot. People are a bit stuck making money in this world in the traditional way. Well, Bitcoin showed us a path to creating value, call it money if you want to, represented by a token. And boy, did that work out, right? Look how much value is tapped in, connected in right now to Bitcoin. Just Bitcoin alone, not even to mention all crypto. It's well over $1 trillion denominated in dollars. It's getting so big that some of the crypto folks out there will tell you, no, soon we'll denominate that the other way, right? how many dollars denominated in Bitcoin? Now, how you feel about this kind of thing, it gets pretty base, because money's almost feral. Money's like money's it's almost money's almost an emotion. I don't know if that's a good thing to call it, but boy, when you mess with people's money, you really are hitting that fight or flight in a second. And so I think crypto's tough that way, but it is one of those topics that we are willing to tackle. How do we deal with the rainforest? How do we deal with HIV? How do we deal? There are even some hints that we've got some opportunities to talk about dealing with death, right? What would be the future of death? Do you want to talk about that? It's a hard subject. Guess what? Our community tends to want to tackle the hard stuff. And that's what I love. So my answer to that question, it solves the problem that the people who are best positioned and capable to transform the world for a better future have the economic means to do so without having to ask for someone permission.
Amazing.
That's what I want.
And I think the way I view this is very much like, I'm a big fan of the economist Carlota Perez and everything that she's written on network theory, right? And I think Salim tackles some of these issues in different tangential ways in his book, right? But the thing to remember is, I would say that maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's Google, maybe it's Amazon. They've been some of the businesses that have shown the power of the network. But I find the cryptos, and I think the Exos economy is one of those great examples where we're at the early baby steps of showing the tremendous power of a network. And I think like you and Salim should pat yourselves on the back for helping lead, with all the other amazing people in your organization, this kind of group to go, look, why can't we build and have a group of 4 people looking to do something in sub-Saharan Africa on AIDS? And like, we know how big that can be, right? And when you're then talking to a head of state or a large major corporation, and we know that many of them right now are talking with Salim. He's probably in the room with someone of a huge stature, saying, look, you can take this thing and you can suddenly have something that's almost come out of the heads of your community with a bit of technology and the powerful coders that we've got assembled, like some of the great Ethereum devs and great blockchain devs, your Fluid Chains team, like you've got, we're doing some really out there new stuff, and it is an early network that's growing. And what you typically see with a network is the power to make change compounds with the size of the network, right? And that's where these things reach tipping point. And like you say, you're an early adolescent, and it's a tough journey, right? Like the next, you can make mistakes, especially when you're 18, 19. You know what I mean? Like, we're at that stage.
What? No. No. We're not going to talk about that. No. No. My kids might see this. No.
The 20s You
Well, I'm
learn
gonna.
things and
Well,
hopefully
Toby, I want us to tackle a couple of maybe straightforward ones. I want to start with that of a big one because that was fun, right? So, but here's one. Can you trade Exos for ETH or Fiat?
yes, 100%. Not right now, but in a month and a half, you will be able to.
Exactly. So when we talk about wrapping the token, putting it on Ethereum as an ERC20, making it tradable on Uniswap, that's what we're talking about. We're not going to talk much about what pairs are going to trade and all that stuff. That's not the right conversation to have today. But the fact is that this is exactly what we mean when we say adding liquidity to the network. So to whomever asked that question, there's your answer there. So Toby, if I wanted to become an expert in the world of crypto and DeFi, where should I start? So I have a simple answer for this one, but yeah. What's yours?
Yeah. My gut. Well, obviously go to Kent's Exo Economy portal.
Nah, that wasn't my answer, but yeah.
I would say the easiest app to understand in this space and probably the best known custodian is and best known brand is Coinbase, right? Like currently, or at least at its flotation, Coinbase was bigger than the stock, bigger by market cap than the largest stock exchange in the world, which is ICE. That's phenomenal, especially as ICE owned a stake in Coinbase. So that the sort of the old guard has already recognized that this thing was going to be massive. And being one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, which often happens in innovation, right? And I think the Exos world is one of the best worlds to think about corporate innovation and corporate acceleration. But then my passion, I'm obviously Mr. DeFi, right? So I would advocate, and I definitely wouldn't advocate it being the first port of call because it is one of the more confusing technologies, but download a so-called non-custodial wallet where it's kind of like magic, right? Like it's an interface, it's a UX which is not holding anything, right? Like this thing is just interacting through smart contracts, and you could get there's various non-custodial wallets, but the most famous is MetaMask, and probably the easiest to deal with. And you can log into Google Chrome and download your MetaMask. Then you've got obviously like even more tangential ones like the Binance Smart Chain, and then every single blockchain typically has its native wallet. And play around with those because they're incredible.
I think that my answer would have been get a little bit of some kind of crypto. I don't really care which one. It can be Exos, it can be a Satoshi. One Satoshi is enough. Once you have that in your wallet and you send it and receive it, you're in. And that's how you start, right? If you start, don't read a book first. Don't just get a wallet, move some tokens around, move some crypto around, and you've begun your journey to becoming an expert. That's it. It's that simple. It's experiential in a lot of ways. And take your time because it's a little tricky. Being your own bank isn't for everyone, we've learned, but these are things that I think get you going. So somebody's asking a really interesting question here. How do we solve for the user experience to be as easy as credit cards and cash? I think that's a great question. I'd say it's already happening. It's getting easier by the day, but what do you think, Toby?
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, And my brain works in a funny way because I tend to find it easier than cash, right? Like I just sit there going, bloody hell, do I have to, sorry to say that, but do I have to log into a bank account, right? And it's sort of, because I find like the crypto ecosystem is kind of effortless, but it is complex, right? It's very much a world designed by technologists in their own image, and almost like, the Mark Zuckerberg phrase of move fast and break things has arguably been taken to a whole new another level, especially by the Ethereum developers, right? Like all people are sort of doing a real-time experiment where they're re-engineering the banking infrastructure on the fly every day, coding away and figuring out how to make not just build a better bank, but build the better set of information flows. But I think it will happen, right? Like the watchword that's always been around the blockchain and the crypto industry is we will have arrived when no one needs to talk about blockchain and crypto, right? That's 100%. Like you won't need to listen to people like me warbling on about like all like MetaMask and Uniswap and whatever, because it will be so seamless that it will just happen. And
it'll be ambient, right? Yeah. Like you know, your bank you'll take some money out of whatever your bank is or move something from one to another or transfer from me to you, Toby, and that's going to go over crypto networks. You'll never even know. You don't know all the inner workings of what happens when you pick up a phone and call someone, right? Nobody really pays much attention to that. It's that easy. Well, it used to work better actually, but anyway, that's an interesting thing. So a good one. Here's actually another. All these questions are so by the way, everybody that's putting these questions in, the quality of the questions is just really popping here. It's really fantastic. We have a lot, Toby, and they keep growing. I'm watching the list. It's getting longer as we're talking. So how do we solve the society tax / VAT issues for exchange of services? I'll say one thing about this first. In some countries, when you hire someone outside your country and then want to pay them in whatever currency, there's this enormous tax. And I mean enormous. It can be 20, 40%. And then it's on the payee to pay that fee. And so they try to take it out of the service provider. And then the service provider, no, you're paying me net. And now that just means that everything costs 150% for them, presumably in an economy many times that is developing or such. Man, I call it an innovation tax. And sorry, but this question really triggered that for me. That needs to go away. Unfortunately, crypto doesn't change that one bit. You're just paying people in a different form of value, and you really are still subject to your local tax codes, your local, whatever your accountant tells you. Toby and I don't provide tax advice or services. However, we do have opinions and we're allowed to express them. So, in my opinion, that just needs to go away. But the reality is you are still subject to whatever local tax jurisdictional issues you have to deal with. So the second part of this question, Toby, maybe you'll take is, what's a good example of a use case where taxes are involved in an exchange of services in crypto?
Yeah, no. And I think it's super important that everyone tries to be compliant and talk with your accountants, and especially if you begin to have significant sums of money, be very like tax is an issue that has caught out many smart people and many naive. Like what's happened in the crypto space is a lot of 20-somethings have created themselves tax issues and they haven't even realized they're creating themselves tax issues. So because like the tax law, most 20-year-olds prior to crypto generally didn't need to grapple with these things, but there's been a degree of windfalls that have. I like to say it's nice to be successful enough to have a tax issue, but at the same time, I think we're really on the new frontier of taxation at the moment. Right? That's where where I see it going is why can't a government be like it now? Why can't a government be like Exos, right? Like at the end of the day, and we're already seeing that, right? So the central banks are discussing central bank digital currencies, right? And the logical extension of that is going, well, actually, and there's huge ethical and privacy implications for this whole thing. But now, once the central bank is in control, the central banks are actually, as far as I understand it, terrified by this implication, because once there's a digital pound or a digital dollar or a digital renminbi, which seems to be the one we're nearest to, what you then end up happening is the central bank. People are custodians with their only counterparty being the central bank. And that, and as far as I understand it, central bankers tend to like the banking system because they work on all the KYC and anti-money laundering and tax monitoring, because the central bank really doesn't have the resources. Because if you look at JP Morgan or Citigroup or any of these organizations, they're so much bigger than the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England, right? So we're at, and the IRS and the HMRC, and a lot of these organizations, they're 19th century, early 20th century organizations. These are not sophisticated digital first organizations. I scratch my head every time I have to deal with HMRC in the UK. I just sit there going, like essentially it's kind of they win, I lose is typically my debate with HMRC. And as that becomes fairer and more transparent, and people like the Exos group and digital groups are figuring out ways to comply with existing jurisdictions and figure that out, we're at the frontier of history. And I'd say we're changing the future for the better world. And one of the better worlds will be getting a tax system that people want to buy into instead of seeking to evade and avoid.
That deserves a show of its own. If we could get, think we could get our E and Y's and those folks to come online and have a chat about that. That could be super fun.
Yeah, I know someone at the Bank for International Settlements who's working on central bank digital currencies and with IBM and blockchain and how they interact. Right?
Well, I can tell you from the years that I've worked on this project, the single most frequent question I get is always about taxation. So Toby, maybe we need to put a pin in that and think about maybe how we could provide a service back to the community by bringing some people like that together and having a real frank, like a panel kind of type discussion. I think that'd be amazing. So let's think about that. We'll take that one offline and
work on that. And we'll pick it up.
That's a really good one. I've got a couple of quick ones that I'm just going to hit. So if you want to give something, just tap in and I'll do that. But I'm going to go over a couple of these quickly. How do I get up to speed with the doubling challenge? So for those that don't know, we've been running something called the doubling challenge, which illustrates the power of exponentials and exponential growth, but done so by using the Exos tokens as the reward for doing the various tasks that are part of that challenge. And we've set aside a very significant amount of Exos for this challenge. Over 1 million Exos were set aside to run this challenge. So the way that you get up to speed with that challenge is to go directly to the website economy.openexo.com. Perhaps we can get that here across the bottom. And there's a section right there on the page. If you click on that, you'll find everything you need. I'm sorry I don't have the exact up-to-dates on the capacity left in the challenge. It was a limited number of people could sign up, and I don't know exactly how many were signed up. So anyways, that's where you go learn about it, and I would say jump in there. It is a scarce resource, funny enough. Here, that's funny. Okay, what can you... watch. Okay, hang on. So I had another one here that was pretty easy. Goodness, none of these are easy. Okay, let's do this one. Question online 39. What is the sustainability of this EXO economy? All right. What an interesting question. So there's a word that I like to use instead of sustainability, which is, well, there are two words. I like resilience. This needs to be a resilient economy. It needs to be able to flex and not break. And it needs to be regenerative, right? It has to be able not just to sustain itself, but it must be able to grow for it to be successful. So in that context, I believe that this sustainability, regenerative nature, or resilience of this economy is directly related to the members of it and their willingness to spend and receive the Exos token, and especially as they go out into the world. and do more things. So it is the biggest vote to the resilience or regenerative capabilities of the economy in the future that we spend and receive the Exos. So I never skip a chance when I can have one to send or receive some Exos. So for me, Toby, that's kind of where it lives. What about you?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that is the great thing. And we I've been sort of our team on this. We said to Kent, we wanted to work on this project 100% in Exos because we believed that Salim and Kent were onto something so big that I literally said, you're the first real DAO I'd met other than sort of Aragon and a few others, Colony and whatever, right? And most of those are hippie programmers building on, right? Like it's like you guys have really brought it out to like the mainstream business world, and because like if you spend time with the hardcore Ethereum devs, they're often some of the most brilliant and intelligent people that you will ever meet. But at the same time, they are frankly living 10 years ahead of most people, right?
Yeah.
So what I love about Kent and Salim is you're in this kind of leadership phase of going like, come on board, like sort of, and we will transform the future for a better world. And you pretty much, you try and make your economy open to everyone. And that is fantastic. And I think to the earlier question of crypto's UX and UI interface, I think to be fair, the Exos blockchain is very much at the hardcore coding level, but because of your workshops, because of your videos, because of your philosophical discussions and thought leadership, you are really one of the first organizations that bridges crypto to traditional Silicon Valley thinking. And I absolutely love that about you.
Gotta take that one for a quote. Thank you. That was awesome. Here's another good one, Toby. So I'm going to read this one. I'm going to read this one verbatim. Then I'm going to give a brief take. And I look forward to hearing, especially because I'm from the United States and you're from the United Kingdom. And I think we look at regulation in different ways. So I think this could be very interesting. So I'll read this verbatim. Regulation is my main question. Solid economic fundamentals and clear and easy rules. Who steps up? So the question is, who steps up? And I'll tell you what, the thing that I have to highlight is that, well, it sure hasn't been necessarily, at least not in an overt fashion, the United States over the last several years. However, I am excited by something that happened last April 13th. A document was published by Hester Pierce called Safe Harbor 2.0 from the SEC. And this was the first time that I read something. The previous Hinman rules were also very good, but they were really loose in terms of actually deciding what to do about it. Other than that, we've been stuck managing against case law against an orange grove, right? Which is just kind of strange. But the reality is that this Safe Harbor 2.0 letter that came out from Hester Pierce as an evolution of the prior has given us a definition of what it looks like to either be a security or a utility. And it's clear. Like, now I don't know that I like everything that's in there, but that's okay. It's clear and I can work with that. And so I think the question of who steps up is, first, it's been Wyoming has really stepped up and a few other states. It's been countries like Switzerland has really stepped up. Malta has tried to step up. The other jurisdictions have really tried to step up. But it is at the country and the state level. And the rest of us kind of need to pay really close attention to this and do the best we can and to navigate. And that's actually been why, Toby, and you know this because we've spoken a lot, but why have we taken our time? Why didn't we just do an ICO in 2017 and get it over with? Well, terrible idea as far as I was concerned for building long-term value over 100 calendar quarters.
Yeah.
Well, so what do you think? Who steps up for regulatory? How does that look like?
Again, I kind of feel like we're living in the future and we're the people helping transform regulation is the way I tend to look at it. right? Like I feel like
there you go.
I'm like I kind of feel and the like I love it because like blockchain programmers and data scientists and all these wonderful people and systems thinkers like the Exo economy and all the wonderful people that you attract, like essentially the like I remember like a programmer, like I'm in a trade body where we sort of discuss, and the trade body founder, his watchword is oranges are not securities, which will make Ken laugh because I mean it's very arcane, the debate, and who would ever think that you would spend so much of your life talking about orange groves?
Trying to actually fail a test.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you wrap your head around, I want to fail the Howey test, right? And it's like, wait, I want to fail? No, I've been conditioned to not fail. I don't want to fail. No, you want to fail. And your attorneys will just be all over you about this if you get into this game. But we've explored this, and I'm really grateful for Safe Harbor 2.0 as a policy, but it's not a policy yet, but as a potential set of actual policies and guidelines, because it does finally sever us a little bit from that particular body of case law that is many decades old. So
having just discussed this slightly arcane and weird case law, not that I think it's very, very important that we put Kent in touch with some of the best legal minds of this issue. So it is a super important issue, and existing regulation in the country that you are in are, you might not like them all, but you have to comply with them, right? And the interesting thing, so then I just suddenly had a coder shout out in this trade body, like, I have never in my life needed to know so much about regulation as a blockchain coder, as I have a blockchain coder. And it was just sort of like, you can imagine this poor 27-year-old suddenly having to like understand the finer minutiae of Mexico and Europe and wherever, because he happens to be traveling around and his crypto's traveling with him, and he might be changing jurisdiction. And I mean, we're in a very complex world right now. And then he went, why don't we just do a hackathon and make it so the crypto is compliant with whatever regular jurisdiction that we're in, and build it? And then the guy set about sort of figuring out how you could sort of actually have something that could port jurisdiction and figure out local securities law. And sort of it starts to get very, very weird. Right?
It's so hard though, Toby, because I know you have. You read these laws. Oh wow! You would think you're reading from something written by the folks who wrote the original United States Constitution. It's the way that this stuff is written is so difficult to parse, and it seems designed to confuse. So that's a huge challenge what you're talking about. Let's do a quick one. You mentioned Mexico. We did have a question here about Mexico. Are Exos available in Mexico? Yes, they are. They're even available on the Exos portal, exos.openexo.com. And then in the OpenExo marketplace, you can, if you're in Mexico or frankly anywhere you are in that particular case, you can exchange Exos for services. Go for it. Part of the utility of Exos. The second part of that question that was a not there yet type answer. What is the currency rate between the cryptocurrency Exos and Mexican pesos?
Wow.
Well, yeah, we're not quite there yet. As Toby said earlier, our first tentative steps into the world of public trading and listing ourselves against other things is going to happen in the next couple of months. And now when you start to see Exos on centralized exchanges, on decentralized exchanges all around the world, then this is a question we can answer quite definitively. But today it's actually a difficult question to answer because it's still basically a private economy. So that's the best answer I have for that one. The next one, fun question, and I went to look this up. I went to look up current status, so I cheated a little bit. But when will cryptocurrency be used by 80% of the population? I'm going to go ahead and assume they mean the world population. So I looked it up. I found the most recent article I could, February 25th, 2021. The estimated number of global crypto users has passed 100 million, and the boomers are now getting drawn to Bitcoin too, a report finds. Okay, whatever that means. Okay, but 100 million. There are 7.8 billion people on planet Earth, still growing. So I'll have to do the math on that, but it's really small. So going from here to 80, it's not so bad. Not if you understand how exponentials work. Okay, so if you look at the doubling challenge, go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32, you can actually look at the arc of the growth of users of crypto, and you will be able to quite reliably, if you use an S curve, you'll be able to quite reliably predict when that will happen. Ray Kurzweil style.
And I'll think about that is like I remember, I'm pretty sure, I think Facebook got to 1 billion users. It was one of the first tech companies. I can't remember if Microsoft actually got to. I'm pretty sure they may have got to 1 billion users, but it was an extraordinary moment how quickly Facebook got to 1 billion users. But I remember it happening, right? And going, wow, who's not using Facebook, right? Like that was my perspective as like a millennial with a mobile phone and whatever. Like,
well,
yeah,
a little, but look at the rise of current unicorns and their user growth. It's exponentially faster than that, and that's because we stand on the shoulders of giants, and it grows and grows and grows, and it's a compound interest kind of thing in those cases. But if a little quick back of the napkin math just for this question says that if it's 100 million as of last February against 7.8 billion, if I did this right, it's about 1.3% of humanity is leveraging crypto in some way, at least like one touch. Yeah. And so now if you go and you apply exponential growth pattern to that, and then map that against the way you would need to across the march of time, you're gonna find that you're about what 30 doublings away from where you want to be, or more actually. So yeah, not long.
Well, that's
really not long.
Nice.
I haven't done that math. I'm going to go do that later. But yeah, we should do that, Toby, and write a blog post.
Yeah,
I like it.
A really great question, and like I don't think the smartphone industry is there yet. So there's a degree of where we need Moore's law to do its thing as well, right?
So we've done a pretty good job. There are way more questions than we can get to today, Toby. To anybody out there who didn't get their question answered live here, what we tried to do is afterwards, we try to go back through these, and there's a team that's compiling a number of FAQs, and we have forums and all kinds of things. So we'll do our very best to go back and get reasonable answers in written form to all of these questions. Sorry if we didn't get to your question today. There's so many good ones.
Wow.
I mean, there's so many more. I can't even, I mean, literally the number of questions are doubling exponentially from town hall to town hall. So this is a good sign. So Toby, we need to wrap and hand the show back over to the team. Before we do that, first, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Nikki to helping put this series together. This is the 7th of 8. We've only got one more. Really hoping to make it a big blowout session. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun next Tuesday. I want to thank Kevin Allen, who's in the backstage, pushing all of the buttons that's allowing us to be here and not look too crazy. Well, no, he can't fix that. We're in trouble, Toby. But but Kevin's back there, so thank you. And Angelo, and today's turnout, by the way, at the Exo Economy core call was awesome. I personally couldn't be there. I was out getting my second COVID vaccine, which I am actually starting to feel. So I'm kind of glad we're coming up on the last bit here. And I just want to point out that this is a journey that when Salim asked me if we should do it, I said, I think we should do it, but I'll only do it if we come at this from a mindset that of a 100 quarter strategy, right? We need to be thinking that far ahead in order to really think about how to do this. And it means when you adopt that point of view, Toby, it means we have to be patient, right? We have to actually not think it's all going to happen overnight. So we're only 12 quarters into that by my measure, coming up on 13. And we have a long way to go, but wow. And I'm only starting from the date of Genesis. There are actually 2 years of work that went on before the Genesis. I'm not even going to count that. That was just formative. But here we are, 13 quarters into a 100-quarter project. And if you try to look forward 100 quarters and say, well, what's an Exos worth? What can I buy with my Exos? I mean, it's almost impossible to answer that question. But if we apply frameworks like OKRs and we set really good KPIs and we communicate really well, I think we have one of the world's best chances at creating something of real impact that then drives more impact through the very people that are members of this community that are going to go out there and transform the future for a better world. So those are my last words to tell you, Toby. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, and I think like you hit the nail on the head, Ken. The quality of questions in your community shows the strength of the community.
Yeah.
Which and as an extension, that will strengthen the economy, which will strengthen the community, which will strengthen the economy. So it's I think we're on a really exciting journey, and the fact that people are so willing to learn and come at this from disparate points of view, and almost like I've never got to the level of thinking about the tax code or how you help sub-Saharan Africa until I met him. You know, like
awesome.
I thank him for that, right?
That's amazing. And that's a great point. I mean, our own thinking about crypto levels up every time we do this. I'm not sure what we're going to do after the town hall series ends yet. I know Nikki's been working on some ideas, but if anybody out there has ideas about how you'd like to see this evolve, what you think has been the best part, the worst part, let us have it. It's okay. Don't be mean, but you can be direct. We have feelings too. No, but the idea out there is that we really do this for you. So please let us know what we can do to help you with the journey. Toby, I'm just so bummed. There's so many more questions, but we're going to figure out how to get them answered and move on. So Kevin, let's get Nikki back out here. Toby, I'll say farewell to you at this point. Thank you so much again for spending your time with us today. And I know I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
All right. Cheers. All right, everybody. We've got Nikki back. She's going to help us close out this party. I'm going to go drink a gallon of water because that's what they told me to do when I got my shot this morning. And I maybe go sit on the couch for a minute. I actually, as this has been going on, I've been starting to feel something. So, but you know, you do this, we've got to try to get to that herd immunity, right? So,
yeah.
So here we go.
Right.
Nikki, back over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Show up next week, same time, same stations. We're streaming live on various channels, and it'll be our final town hall. We'll have some announcements, and what's coming next could be one of them. I've put a link in the chat for you to fill out a questionnaire. What's your feedback? What would you like to see as a next step for us? But I so appreciate you being here. We have 2 special guests next week. That'll be Miguel Francis Santiago and Brian Talibi. So we're looking forward to having that conversation, and we'll see you next week, May 18th.